Hello there once again, and welcome to The Verdict. I'm Mick Cornett, along with Kent Myers. We're here to host The Verdict. We're here every week, meeting interesting people and dealing with topical issues, and we're back this week in the city of Tulsa.
Yes, back to Tulsa, and a nice set, and the nice people here at the Cox Studios in Tulsa. We appreciate their hospitality and putting up with us another time. We have really looked around the city of Tulsa and tried to get some excellent guests, and we have been successful again this week. We had Dr. Derek Gregg last week. This week we're going to have Phil Lakin, the Chief Executive Officer of the Tulsa Community Foundation, join us and talk about what's going on in his professional life and his mountain climbing life and whatever else he may be doing.
And his political life.
And his political life.
That's right. Phil Lakin, today's guest on The Verdict. We'll be right back.
A doctorate in American Indian Studies and Comparative Cultural and Literary Studies. I focus on Native American arts and especially representations of American Indians. My name is Tracy Morris, and I am an educator, a scholar, and a business owner, and I am Chickasaw. I'm extremely interested in how Natives have been represented in the media and how we represent ourselves in the media. We have a unique opportunity right now with broadband and with new media. It's an open playing field. I do believe that it gives us a power to represent ourselves and a power to change our own destiny. Anybody with a cell phone, with a good phone, and an idea and a computer can go out and make a movie. For the first time, we can represent ourselves. We can tell our own stories, and to be seen for who we are now, not the victims of the past, I think is tremendously exciting. That's where my work lies.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
As I indicated in the opening segment, we're really thrilled today to have on the set with us Phil Lakin, who is the CEO of the Tulsa Community Foundation. He's also a Tulsa City Council member, City Commissioner. Phil did his undergraduate work. Well, first of all, he's a native Tulsan and grew up here. He did his undergraduate work at Baylor University, continued on at Baylor University for a little while after graduation, working at the university. In 1999, he joined the Tulsa Community Foundation and has been with the foundation since that time. You might imagine he's involved in a lot of charitable and civic activities here in Tulsa. And he, interestingly enough, is an avid mountain climber. And we're really pleased to have him join us and talk to us about all of those things. Phil, welcome.
Good.
Glad to have you.
Thank you all very much for having me.
Are there any synergies with mountain climbing and running for city council?
Yeah, I don't know what those synergies would be. Yeah, striving to reach the top, working really hard to get there.
Having to rappel occasionally.
Yes, haven't had to do that yet. But yeah, just testing my agility and ability, especially when walking neighborhoods and knocking on so many doors as you have to do during election cycles.
You've got a wonderful resume and activities. I want to get to that, but I want to talk about the mountain climbing. Tell us about what you've done and where do you go to do this?
Mainly, I go to Colorado. I've climbed all the 14,000-foot peaks in Colorado.
How many is that?
There are 54.
Oh my
And
gosh!
so I've climbed all of those, and then I've climbed some a second and third time, and I'm starting to take my kids. I have 3 boys, so taking them up those same mountains as well, and friends.
Yeah.
Climbed Grand Teton in Wyoming, Mount Rainier once, and then going back up this summer.
I drove a car up to Pikes Peak. Does that count?
No. Yeah, technically, in order to climb it, you would have had to get out of your car, walk down 3,000 feet, and then walk back up 3,000 feet.
Dang it. Thought I might get at least half credit for something like that.
This is another silly question to a mountain climber, but at what point do you start needing supplemental oxygen? How high do you have to
Oh,
be?
I don't know, but I haven't been that
Yeah,
high.
it's not 14,000 feet.
It's not. It's
Okay.
not. A lot of people get altitude sickness, but it's not something that affects me, and you definitely don't need supplemental oxygen at that level.
All right, well, give us a little background. What were you doing in the 90s when you started your professional career?
Sure. After I graduated from Baylor in '89, I went to work for Anderson Consulting, which is now Accenture. Loved that, but wanted to really help people. And so I went back to Baylor University, worked in their development department, fundraising, for 8 years, managed your Dallas office, and then managed 6 different states. But Tulsa is and was my home, and that's where my heart was. And so I read about the creation of the Community Foundation. George Kaiser and 16 other trustees created the Community Foundation. We were the last major metropolitan city to be without a community foundation. So thankfully they created it. I applied. I read about it on the internet when the internet was in its infancy, actually, in early '99. Applied and lucked into the job.
Well, there seems to be a spirit of helpfulness in your makeup, in your DNA, because certainly you would have to have that to be joining as a professional member of the Tulsa Community Foundation, but also you've been elected recently, well, several years ago, to the Tulsa City Council, City Commission. Tell us about what motivated you to take that step to run for that elective office.
Well, for Tulsans, they'll understand that we had many years where the council was not working well as a team and wasn't working very cooperatively with our mayor. And so being in the charitable sector and knowing what I did know about the philanthropists and how hard they were working to better our city, and knowing about the corporate community, I just thought that there was a leg of the stool that really wasn't doing its part. And thankfully, a whole bunch of other people decided to run for city council the same time I did. So out of the 9 city council seats, 7 were turned over. So we had a pretty good sweep, if you will, in 2011. We have a very cooperative spirit on the council right now, and I think it's very supportive of those visionary goals that the corporate and philanthropic sector have had. But it's that cooperativeness is key in advancing our city on every single front. I don't want to say government was holding us back, but it's good for us all to be walking forward together in the same sort of step.
Well, consensus can bring about progress, I take it.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And not every council member agrees with every other council member, but when we have disagreements, we have those disagreements behind closed doors. We solve them professionally, and the attitude is just completely different this year and last year than it was probably over the past 10 years, and I'm very grateful for that.
Tulsa's economy relatively strong compared to the rest of the country.
It is. Yeah. It is. Our unemployment rate is very low. We're ranked, down and so low in so many socioeconomic rankings. But when you look at us from a business perspective, especially over the last 5 years, we've really held our own and we've really stood out with Oklahoma City and some other peer regional cities, which I'm very proud of.
Some real successes in manufacturing.
Absolutely. And we'll continue to have those same successes, but even more so if we step forward together in that very cooperative nature and focus in proactively on the things that will make our city better, rather than some of what I've seen, which is just reacting to things as they come across the desk. And so we're very intentional about what we do as a council.
A lot of Tulsans hoping for some work on the river. Where does the city fall in that equation?
Yeah, we're very much an integral part of that whole plan. As many people know, we've tried to have voters approve packages that would have built dams to put water in the river and to really use that river as an economic development tool. Those have failed. The last 2 have failed. So there are other efforts still out there to create dams that will provide that water that is necessary for retail establishments to build along the river in certain places, because we don't want to utilize the entire river for economic development, because there are important areas to preserve. The Kaiser Foundation is investing hundreds of millions of dollars, along with other donors and probably the public sector as well, to establish a park that is probably like none other in the country. that will be an attraction and a draw for people right about 31st and Riverside. So we're very excited about that and what that could mean for not river development, but development along the river.
In preparing for this show and thinking about what you do and both on the commission, when we get back from the break, I want to ask you about how you balance your activities between the Community Foundation and the Tulsa City Commission and how the goals of each are similar, if not parallel.
Okay.
All right. Phil Lakin, our guest today on The Verdict. We'll be right back.
When you have something important to communicate, it becomes clear that there's a lot of competition for your audience's attention. So how can your message stand out and actually resonate with your audience? Legal Graphics has the answers. The team at Legal Graphics will work with you to plan, design, and even test your presentation to ensure your message will be heard and remembered. Call Legal Graphics today to schedule an appointment. The readiness is all.
Hear that? It's the sound of an industry, 83,000 strong, creating jobs for nearly 350,000. $52 billion a year being pumped into our economy. It's the sound of Oklahoma's oil and natural gas industry, our heart for the state and our people. And it beats on and on and on.
We are back on The Verdict from Tulsa, and we are joined by our guest, Phil Lakin.
Phil, I wanted to ask you, as I indicated before we went to the break, it seems to me that your primary profession is as a CEO of the Tulsa Community Foundation. Its mission is to help the city of Tulsa and the folks in the city of Tulsa. Moreover, your primary mission as a city councilman for the city of Tulsa is to help the city of Tulsa and its citizens. That is a rare synergy that most councilmen don't have.
That's true. Many of the councilmen and women have jobs that are outside of directly affecting and serving the city of Tulsa. But that's why I really don't feel like I have two jobs. I feel like I have one job, and that is to serve the city of Tulsa. And I've been doing that in my capacity as CEO of TCF since I first joined. So I did spend a lot of time at City Hall. I did spend a lot of time working with city administrators on beautification efforts or bettering the socioeconomic conditions for the most disadvantaged of our citizens. So I was always in there working with the public officials because the public officials and the public sector is such a vital part of solving anything related to Tulsa. Now what I can do is when I go to City Hall, I can have conversations with my fellow city councilors about what the philanthropic sector is needing and doing. And when I go to TCF, I can have those conversations in a different way. And so I think it's really allowed me to see and to understand both perspectives a lot better and to hopefully advance our city just because of my knowledge of what each sector is doing to better the city.
The endowment in your foundation is pretty large, isn't it? Especially compared to the size of the city?
It is. We're the largest community foundation in the country.
Yeah,
so
when I say that's pretty large.
when I came in, we had $117,000 that had been given and was sitting in the bank. Today we have about $3.5 billion. And the next closest community foundation is about $2.2 billion. So, yeah, we're very fortunate to have had the kind of success that we've had. But as you know, Tulsa is America's most generous city, which is a mark that I reserved for Tulsa back in 2011 because I think it perfectly describes what Tulsa is and the kind of people that we have living in Tulsa.
So do you spend most of your time collecting money or spending money?
Both. Well, that's the great thing about being at the Community Foundation. Sometimes our financials look as if we had a net loss. That's not bad in the community foundation world, because that means that we served our mission. We gave money away to entities that need it. So yeah, many years we'll bring in $100 million, or it may be we've had years where we brought in $800 million. But it's okay when you bring in $100 million and you give away $150 million, because we're serving that mission.
Is the idea to just spend the interest or the revenue that's generated off the endowment, or are there days you reach into the capital?
Oh, we reach into the capital all the time. The way that community foundations are designed really predominantly is not just to take a distribution from the endowment, but it's to do what donors advise be done with the money that they invest at the community foundation. So anybody can create a fund at the community foundation, and then we can spend the entire amount that they put in there. Very few people nowadays put $100,000 in and just spend $5,000 a year.
Talk to our viewers in Tulsa and in Oklahoma City about what the principal projects of the Community Foundation are. Specifically, what are you guys trying to do?
Yeah,
project by project, not all of them, but the main ones.
Right. The predominant project is to, as I said, just do what the donors advise us to do with their charitable endeavors and monies that they've invested with us. So we really try to put them and connect them with the types of organizations that they want to support. So if a donor comes in and they want to help prevent child abuse, we connect them to the child abuse prevention agencies that are out there. We don't have a whole lot of discretionary dollars, but we do have the Kaiser Foundation that is attached to the Community Foundation. Their most major investments are intervention in the cycle of poverty, especially through very early childhood education. So we have 3 EduCare centers located in Tulsa. There's one in Oklahoma City as well. So we're the only state in the nation to have 4 EduCare centers, the only city to have 3 in Tulsa. And then we're invested real heavily in civic enhancement and beautification. So we just opened the Woody Guthrie Collection, which is an asset of the community, of the Kaiser Foundations. This past weekend, across the street, we have Guthrie Green, which is just this booming new downtown park. We could have had 2,000 people there this weekend, and it wouldn't have surprised me, just on one day. And then we have that major river enhancement project that is taking a piece of residential property and 2 commercial properties and combining those all together to create this state-of-the-art, unique park that we just don't have anywhere else in the United States. That will be a major draw, I hope, for people from all across the country to come to Tulsa.
How many different people have come to the foundation and said, I want you to take care of this money for me and I want it to go to this particular cause? How many different donors have there been?
We have 1,000 different funds.
1,000?
Yes. We have 250 nonprofits that have affiliated with us. And then we have 750 donor advisors that have created these donor advised funds. They put money in, they get 1 receipt, and then we manage that money. We invest it in the stock market or the money market until that money is ready to go to a charity really of their choice.
And are there some obscure causes buried inside these 1,000 wishes?
No, not really. A lot of people just use them to give to their typical charities. So instead of writing 25 checks out to charities during the year, they write 1 check to TCF, and then we write those 25 checks out to those charities. They support alma maters, they support local nonprofits, just about anything and everything that you can imagine. We also do scholarship funds. We help employers with disaster relief funds. So Dollar Thrifty, they created a fund, and every single one of their employees, if they encounter a disaster or they need employee relief, they contact us. So it doesn't matter if they're in Florida or in New Jersey or in California, they're contacting us, and we're doing all that work on behalf of the Dollar Thrifty employees.
How do you work with the University of Tulsa and its mission?
We just support them. It's just like supporting any other nonprofit throughout Tulsa, like the United Way, the Tulsa Area United Way. So if our donors want to make a gift to the University of Tulsa, they advise that a gift be made to the University of Tulsa, and we make that gift on their behalf. Just as we would the United Way, just as we would domestic violence intervention services. Now, because the University of Tulsa is such a big entity, we're giving massive amounts of dollars, millions of dollars a year to underwrite capital campaigns, to underwrite endowments or their endowment or scholarship funds or whatever they may have there internally at the university.
Do you get a lot of private solicitations to you, say, Phil, I need to talk to you about my favorite project?
I never get phone calls from anybody needing money. No, not at all. Yes, but that's the great part of the job, because I know so much about the needs of the people who are out there. So I'm going on site visits to the various nonprofits that are in existence and the ones that are just being created. And so I really do have a good handle on what missions are being served out there, what people are being served, and where the unmet needs still are.
Off the subject a little bit, but I hope not too much. How unique is it for Tulsa to have a George Kaiser Family Foundation located within its boundaries and be as supportive as that foundation, as I know that foundation is, of Tulsa's mission? Do most cities have somebody that strong and that powerful and that active?
It's unique for the Kaiser Foundation to be affiliated with the Community Foundation.
Yeah.
Most foundations of this size are just, they're organized as private foundations. What George has done is given his money to a public foundation. He's not even on the board. Not one person from his family is on the board. So really it has been a gift of billions of dollars over into the Tulsa Community Foundation, which is a public foundation. If you take Bloomberg or Gates or Buffett or any of those, they're organized as private foundations, and their families still really, for all intents and purposes, control those assets, control the investment activities and every investment out of that, and every grant out of the foundation as well. Where George has said, this is the mission, go out and fulfill the mission. I think that's rare.
That is rare.
Very rare.
I would bet it is. Phil, we've run out of time, but I want to thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for having me. I've
And I
I
enjoyed
wish you
talking
good
to you
luck
all.
with both of your hats.
Thank you. Thanks.
Phil Lakin with the Tulsa Community Foundation, also a member of the Tulsa City Council, our guest today on The Verdict. Kent and I will be back with the final word when we return.
The good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. Bank First is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. Developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. Bank First serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
I really think people are so unaware of the number of kids waiting just in Oklahoma. And I think if more people knew that those children were out there waiting, I think that just by the way we live our lives and the people we talk to, that maybe we can help encourage adoption from Oklahoma.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information. And for almost 30 years, Oklahoma political, government, and business leaders have turned to the McCarville Report for accurate, reliable, inside information. Visit the McCarville Report online.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett and Kent Myers here, wrapping up a show with Phil Lakin, who's with the Tulsa Community Foundation.
Yeah, very nice fellow. Got a lot to do, a lot on his plate, a lot of responsibility. I did note, visiting with Phil off camera, that the Tulsa Community Foundation also manages the endowment foundation of Cox Communications here in Tulsa, and does a very nice job working with the Cox folks. So Cox puts us on the air, and we appreciate that, and we appreciate Phil managing their money as well.
Phil rightly also mentioned Educare and what a wonderful program that's been in the state of Oklahoma. 3 facilities in Tulsa, 1 in Oklahoma City. It basically goes into a lower performing zip code and provides some very high level early childhood education to families who might not receive anything close to that otherwise. The early returns on Educare are very promising, and I think a lot of places around the country are kind of keeping an eye on it, and to see if this isn't some sort of new trend. It's not necessarily inexpensive, but it's going to be very effective. And if we're going to break the cycle of poverty, it's going to take some creative ideas like that. And the Kaiser Foundation's been wonderful in the Oklahoma City facility, and I'm sure in the Tulsa facility as well. We have a couple of web addresses to give you. You can reach Phil Lakin at tulsacf.org, tulsacf.org. Our website is theverdict.tv. For Kent Myers, I'm Mick Cornett. We'll see you next week.
Praise Yahweh, and always remember that the Father Yahweh and his Son Yahweh ben Yahweh love you, and your host loves you too. Shalom Aleichem.